Hey everybody, this will be a quick one. I'm in my car at the gym. The lighting is terrible here. Not sure how many people we'll get in the middle of the day, but let's see. So, let's talk about Jeff Sessions and his new guidance about weed. I'll tell you my interpretation. My interpretation is that Jeff Sessions is getting out of the weed business. In other words, he's sort of kicking it down to the states. Now, the first thing that you might say to yourself is, hey, if he kicks it to the states, but he still makes it possible for the federal prosecutors to chase things as their what do you say, as their resources allow. um, what's going to happen? The obvious result of this is that Congress is going to have to get involved and clarify, because you can't have a situation where you've got this major industry and people don't know if they're going to get prosecuted or not. It's an untenable situation. So the beauty is that you've got Jeff Sessions, who really couldn't change his mind about weed, but there's this elegant way he can get out of the way by simply kicking it back to the states, resetting everything, which causes enough consternation that Congress will just have to act. And so when they act, they will also be acting in a bipartisan way. And probably the most bipartisan large thing that will happen. And why this is important is that the president needs a few bipartisan things in the future that are going to be much harder. One of them would be health care, another one would be infrastructure. So those need bipartisan participation, but they're going to be harder. And there's a general rule in persuasion that if you want to persuade somebody to do something that's hard to persuade, you first persuade them to do easier things. You sort of get them in the mental mode of agreeing with you. And then once they're in the mode of agreeing, it's easier to get them to agree to something bigger. I'm not driving right now. I'm parked, in case you're worried. So the genius of what might be happening, and by the way, I don't know if any of this is intentional. So I always caution people against reading minds of strangers. So I will not assume that this is an intentional play. It could be just Sessions doesn't like weed, Trump doesn't like weed. That might be the whole story. But what it seems to me has to happen now is that Congress has to jump in, and it will be widely popular in a bipartisan way. It will probably look good for minority communities. It might be good for the budget. But here's the genius part. Are you ready for this? What could be more Republican than removing a regulation? And it doesn't cost you anything to remove the regulation. In fact, you save money because you're not prosecuting things. So how hard would it be to get Republicans to agree to get rid of a regulation when states can do all the regulating they want? It should be the easiest vote ever taken. How easy will it be to get Democrats to say, let's get the federal government out of it and leave it to the states? Real easy. Real easy. You're going to get 80-90% of Democrats automatically, and you'll probably get 75% of Republicans. I mean, it might be 90% of both by the time you're done if you frame it correctly. Now, the correct framing is not legalize or don't legalize. The correct framing is, should the federal government be involved in making laws about it when states can make all the laws they want about it? As long as states are free to make their own decisions about what's legal in the state, having another entity on top of it isn't adding enough. So you're going to create a situation through Jeff Sessions' recent move, clarifying the Justice Department's stance, that will create enough ambiguity that Congress will just have to act. So I think that Sessions found a way, and here's the clever part, without compromising his integrity one bit, think about how clever this is. Jeff Sessions is a man of principle, even if you don't like his principles. And I would have to say I don't agree with all of them. But he is a man of principle. Even his critics seem to agree on that one point. And his principle is he's very anti-marijuana. But he's also on the wrong side of the Republican opinion and the wrong side of the country and the wrong side of history on this. So how does Jeff Sessions do his job and still allow the country to express its will about marijuana? Well, it looks like he found a way. All he did was say, I'm going to go back to allowing people to follow the law the way it is written. And the way it is written creates enough ambiguity in how it's enforced that it just has to be kicked over to Congress where it belongs. So, again, I don't want to assume too much intention on the part of Jeff Sessions. I don't know him or anybody else who would be involved in this. But it does seem to me that the only way that this can go is for the federal government through Congress to decide to get out of the weed